Story 1. The Dispatcher Who Knew Too Much. The dispatcher called Robert Hayes at 3:47 a.m. to warn him about the accident he was about to have. Eastbound Kenworth, mile marker 89, you need to pull over right now. In 4 minutes, a deer is going to cause you to swerve into the median and your trailer will jackknife. You'll survive, but your left leg won't. Robert stared at the CB receiver, his hands tightening on the wheel. His dispatcher was named Linda. This voice was male, older, and absolutely certain about something that hadn't happened yet. "Who is this?" Robert demanded. "I'm your dispatcher. Have been for 6 years. And in 4 minutes, 3 minutes 40 seconds now, you're going to die unless you pull over. I've watched it happen 17 times already, please. This time, just pull over." Robert Hayes had been driving for 19 years. He knew every sound his truck made, every quirk of his route from Columbus to Pittsburgh, every dispatcher at his company. There was no male dispatcher. There never had been. But something in the voice made his foot ease off the accelerator, made him guide the Kenworth toward the shoulder. "I'm pulling over," Robert said, "but you need to explain what the hell this is." "Keep pulling, get completely off the road, hazards on." Robert complied. Set the air brakes. The clock on his dash read 3:49 a.m. He waited. 30 seconds. 60. Nothing happened. The highway stretched empty in both directions. No deer, no accident, just darkness and the distant glow of Pittsburgh's light pollution against the clouds. "False alarm," Robert said into the CB. "Look at mile marker 89. Robert checked his GPS. He'd pulled over at mile marker 87, 2 miles before the predicted accident location. As he watched, a deer bounded across the highway at exactly marker 89. Large buck, moving fast. If Robert had been there traveling at 65 miles per hour, he would have had maybe 2 seconds to react. Swerving would have been instinctive, and with 40,000 pounds of cargo, a swerve at highway speed would absolutely cause a jackknife. Robert's mouth went dry. "You were right. I'm always right, that's the problem." "What do you mean?" The voice, his supposed dispatcher, exhaled slowly. "My name is Robert Hayes. I'm you. 53 years old, 6 years from now. And I'm stuck in a dispatcher's office that doesn't exist, watching routes I've already driven, trying to save myself from accidents I've already died in." Robert's hand moved toward the CB power switch. This was insane, impossible, some kind of prank or psychological attack. But the deer, the exact timing, the precise mile marker. How could anyone have known? "Don't turn off the radio," future Robert said. "I know you're thinking about it. I know because I did turn it off the first time. And 17 minutes later, at mile marker 103, a tire blowout sent me through the guardrail. I woke up here, in this office, with a computer showing my own route, my own truck, my own life playing out again from the beginning of this shift. And I've been trying to save myself ever since. This is insane. You're carrying 40,000 pounds of steel pipes, loaded in Columbus at 11:15 p.m. You stopped for coffee at the Pilot in Zanesville at 1:33 a.m. You called your daughter Emily at 2:10 a.m. and got her voicemail because she's still mad about you missing her birthday last week. You've been listening to an audiobook, Michael Connelly, The Late Show, but you paused it 20 minutes ago because the narrator's voice was putting you to sleep. How would I know that, Robert? Every detail was correct, every single one." Robert felt cold sweat forming on his back despite the heater running full blast. "What happened to you? To us?" "I died. 17 different ways. The first time was the deer. Second time I avoided the deer, but the tire blowout got me. Third time I avoided both, but fell asleep at mile marker 127 and hit a bridge abutment. Every time I die, I wake up back in this dispatcher's office. Back at the beginning of the shift, and I try again. Try to guide myself through the route safely, but there are so many ways to die, Robert, so many variables I can't predict or control. Robert looked at his hands. They were shaking. How do I get through this? How do I survive? I don't know. I've never made it to Pittsburgh, never delivered the load. The furthest I've gotten is mile marker 178, about 30 miles from the destination. Then something always happens, an accident I didn't foresee. A medical emergency, a mechanical failure. Reality itself seems determined to kill us on this route. Then I'll turn around, go back, refuse the delivery. I tried that. 8th iteration. We turned around at mile marker 95, drove back toward Columbus, made it to mile marker 43 before a semi crossed the median and hit us head on. Driver was having a stroke, nothing we could have predicted or avoided. We died instantly, woke up here again. Robert's mind raced. If going forward meant death and going backward meant death, what was left? I'll stay here. Right here on the shoulder. Wait for morning. Call for help. Iteration 12. You stayed on the shoulder. At 4:17 a.m., a drunk driver swerved off the road and hit the trailer. You survived the impact, but the steel pipes came through the cab. I won't describe it. It was the worst death so far. Jesus Christ, Robert's voice cracked. So I'm trapped. No matter what I do, I die. That's what I'm trying to understand. Why this route? Why this night? I've gone over every detail. The cargo isn't cursed. The truck is mechanically sound. The weather is clear. The route is standard. But something about this specific combination, this exact time, this exact load, this exact driver, creates a probability loop where death is inevitable. And I'm stuck watching it, guiding you, trying to find the one path through all the variables that leads to survival. Robert sat in the cab, engine idling, hazard lights flashing. What do I do right now? Start driving, I'll guide you, tell you every danger before it happens. Maybe this time, iteration 18, maybe this is the one where we finally make it through. Robert released the air brakes, pulled back onto the highway. The speedometer climbed to 65. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless. And in his CB speaker, his own voice from 6 years in the future began calling out instructions. At mile marker 94, move to the left lane. Debris in the right lane, 2x4 with nails, you'll get a puncture if you stay right. Robert switched lanes, saw the wood plank flash past in his headlights. Exactly where future Robert had said. At mile marker 101, slow to 55, there's a state trooper running radar behind the overpass. Robert slowed, passed the trooper at a safe speed. Watched the patrol car stay parked. At mile marker 108, tighten your grip, crosswind gust from the left, strong enough to push the trailer if you're not ready. The wind hit exactly on cue. Robert held the wheel steady. The truck shuddered but stayed in the lane. Mile after mile, future Robert called out hazards. Some were obvious: traffic slowdowns, construction zones, weather changes. Others were impossibly specific. A hubcap in the road that would have bounced into the windshield, a car with malfunctioning brake lights that would have caused a rear-end collision, a moment of micro-sleep that would have lasted just long enough to drift into the shoulder. At mile marker 156, Robert asked, "How are you seeing all this? How do you know what's about to happen?" The computer in this office, it shows probabilities, branching timelines, every choice, every variable, every possible outcome. And I can see which branches lead to death. There are thousands of them, Robert, thousands of ways this route kills us. I'm navigating through the narrow paths between all those deaths. And you've done this 17 times. 17 times I've watched myself die. 17 times I've woken up back here. 17 times I've tried to save us. And I'm so tired, Robert. So fucking tired of watching myself die in different ways. Of feeling the moment of death echo back to me through whatever connection exists between this office and that truck. At mile marker 163, the voice said, "Pull over, now. Right shoulder, don't argue." Robert obeyed, pulled onto the shoulder, set the brakes. "What is it?" "Your heart rate is elevated, blood pressure rising. You're experiencing the early stages of a panic attack. If you keep driving, you'll hyperventilate at mile marker 171. You'll pass out. The truck will drift into the guardrail, through it, down a 70-foot embankment. You'll die on impact. I need you to breathe. Slowly. Get your nervous system under control." Robert realized his chest was tight, his breathing shallow and fast. His hands were cramping from gripping the wheel too hard. The constant stress of following instructions, of knowing death waited at every moment, had pushed him to a breaking point. "I can't do this," Robert whispered. "I can't drive knowing that any second could be the one where I die." "You have to. We're so close. Mile marker 163, only 15 miles to go. This is the furthest I've gotten you. Furthest I've ever gotten. Please, Robert, just breathe, calm down. We can make it." Robert forced himself to take slow breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth. His heart rate gradually decreased, the tightness in his chest eased. He looked at the clock. 5:23 a.m. He'd been on the road for 6 hours. 6 hours of constant tension and hypervigilance and existential terror. "Okay," Robert said, "I'm ready." "Good. Pull back onto the highway. Stay at 60. No faster. The next 12 miles are the most dangerous." "This is where I've lost us every previous time. There are variables I haven't solved yet, factors I can't predict. But maybe, we've finally gotten far enough that the probability loop breaks. Maybe at mile marker 178 we punch through to a timeline where we survive." Robert accelerated. The road curved through hills, descending toward the river valley where Pittsburgh sprawled. Dawn was beginning to break. The eastern horizon showed the first hints of gray. At mile marker 167, the voice said, "Watch the overpass ahead. Sometimes there are kids throwing rocks. I can't predict if they'll be there. Just be ready." No kids. The overpass passed safely. At mile marker 172, the voice said, "The truck in front of you is going to brake suddenly. Stay back. Give yourself following distance." The truck's brake lights flared. Robert slowed smoothly. No collision. At mile marker 175, the voice said, "This is it. The next 3 miles. This is where I always die. I don't know what it is. The probabilities fracture here. Too many variables, too many unknowns. Just stay alert. Trust your instincts. And Robert, if we make it through this, if we finally break the loop, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for listening." Robert's hands tightened on the wheel. The road ahead looked normal. Dawn light spreading. Traffic increasing as the city approached. Nothing unusual, nothing dangerous. Mile marker 176, normal. Mile marker 177, normal. Mile marker 178. The CB exploded with static, a sound like reality tearing. And through the noise, Robert heard his own voice, but different, younger. From the past rather than the future. "Don't listen to him. He's not trying to save you. He's trying to trap you. The office isn't real. The dispatcher isn't real. I'm the real Robert Hayes calling from 3 hours ago, and I'm trying to warn you that the voice you've been following is the thing that kills us. It gets us to trust it, to follow its instructions, to drive in specific patterns through specific locations at specific times. And at mile marker 178, at exactly 5:47 a.m., when the route geometry and timing and probability all align perfectly, it takes us. Pulls us out of the timeline. That's why you keep dying. That's why you keep waking up. You're not in a loop. You're being harvested." Robert's blood went ice cold. "What?" Both voices spoke simultaneously. The future voice. "Don't listen, that's not you, that's the thing that kills us. Keep driving." The past voice. "Don't drive, stop the truck, get out, break the pattern." Robert's foot hovered over the brake. The speedometer read 60. Mile marker 178 was 100 yards ahead. The clock read 5:46, 53, 54, 55, 56. "Please," the future voice begged. "We're so close, just drive through it. We'll make it this time." "Stop!" the past voice screamed, "and for God's sake, stop the truck." Mile marker 178 flashed past. 5:47. Robert felt it, a sensation like hooks sinking into his chest, into his mind, a pulling sensation. Reality folding around him. The truck's cabin seemed to expand and contract simultaneously. The road ahead showed Pittsburgh's skyline and also showed an endless empty void, and also showed a room, an office, with a computer screen showing his own truck driving through mile marker 178. And Robert Hayes understood. He was driving into the office. The dispatcher's office existed at mile marker 178, existed at 5:47 a.m., existed at the intersection of probability and geometry and time. And once you drove into it, you became the dispatcher, became trapped. Watching your previous self drive the route, trying to guide yourself to safety, dying in new ways forever. He was already there, already sitting in the office, already watching his own truck drive through mile marker 178 on the screen in front of him, already picking up the CB microphone to call himself at 3:47 a.m. to warn about the deer. This was iteration 18. He'd been here for 18 loops, 18 deaths, 18 attempts to save himself, and he'd just guided himself into the trap again. Robert Hayes, all versions of him, screamed. But the scream came out as a calm, tired voice on a CB radio, calling back through time to the start of the shift. "Eastbound Kenworth, mile marker 89, you need to pull over right now. In 4 minutes, a deer is going to cause you to swerve into the median." And somewhere, somewhen, a Robert Hayes who hadn't yet reached mile marker 89 heard the warning and started to trust the dispatcher's voice. Iteration 19 had begun. The loop had no exit, only mile marker 178. Only 5:47 a.m., only the office that existed between moments. Harvesting truckers who drove the exact wrong route at the exact wrong time with the exact wrong cargo. And Robert Hayes would guide himself into it forever. Each time hoping this iteration would be different. Each time dying in a new way. Each time waking up back in the office to try again. Because the thing that lived at mile marker 178 was always hungry. And it fed on probability. Story 2. The truck stop that remembered everything. Patricia Sullivan realized the cashier was dead when she tried to pay for her coffee and saw the bullet hole in his forehead. He rang up her items normally, coffee, protein bar, pack of gum, and gave her change with steady hands. But the hole was there. Clean entry wound, center of the forehead, the kind of precision that suggested execution rather than accident. And he didn't seem to notice. Didn't seem to care, just smiled and said, "Drive safe, ma'am," while brain matter dripped slowly down the back of his skull. Patricia stood frozen at the counter. The Flying J outside Toledo was busy, normal Wednesday night traffic of truckers and travelers. She looked around. Every person in the store had injuries, fatal injuries. The woman at the coffee station had her throat cut, blood soaking her shirt but not dripping. The trucker by the sandwich cooler had a tire iron buried in his skull. The family near the restrooms, mom, dad, 2 kids, all had the gray pallor and stillness of carbon monoxide poisoning. But they moved, shopped, talked, acted completely alive despite being completely dead. Patricia's hands shook as she took her change, backed away from the counter. The cashier's smile never wavered. Blood continued its slow ooze down his neck. She walked quickly toward the exit, not running. Running would attract attention, but moving with purpose. Something was catastrophically wrong here. Every person was dead and didn't know it, or knew it and didn't care. She pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot, The lot was full. Dozens of trucks parked in neat rows, cars at the fuel pumps, everything normal, except the drivers. Patricia watched a man fueling his pickup. His left arm was missing, not injured. Gone. The shoulder ended in a clean surgical amputation, but he held the fuel nozzle in his missing hand. The nozzle floated in space where his hand should be. Fuel flowed normally into his tank. Patricia's breath came faster. She walked toward her freightliner parked in the 6th row. Past other truckers, a woman with her spine bent at an impossible angle, a man whose face was burned down to the bone, a teenager with his head twisted completely backwards. All dead, all moving, all acting like nothing was wrong. Patricia reached her truck and climbed in, locked the doors. Her mind raced through possibilities, hallucination, gas leak, some kind of mass psychosis, but the details were too consistent, too specific. The cashier's bullet hole was real. The woman's cut throat was real. These weren't vague impressions, they were concrete, visible wounds that everyone else seemed unable to see, or everyone else was already dead and didn't care. Patricia started her engine. She needed to leave, get back on I-80. Put distance between herself and this truck stop. But as she reached for the gear shift, movement in her passenger mirror caught her attention. A man stood beside her truck, 50s, wearing a trucking company uniform. The right side of his skull was caved in, massive blunt force trauma. He gestured to her window, asking her to roll it down. Patricia shook her head. Put the truck in gear. The man's mouth moved. She couldn't hear through the closed window, but she could read his lips. You can see us. Patricia's foot hit the accelerator. The truck lurched forward. She glanced in the mirror. The man stood watching, not chasing, just watching with an expression of profound sadness. She navigated through the parking lot. Other dead people watched her pass. They stood between trucks by fuel pumps near the building entrance, all with fatal injuries, all staring at her with that same sad recognition. You can see us. Patricia reached the exit, pulled onto the highway. Her hands gripped the wheel so hard her knuckles went white. The truck stop receded in her mirrors. Distance. She needed distance. 10 miles. 20. Enough space that whatever infection or phenomenon existed at that location couldn't reach her. At 30 miles, Patricia's breathing began to normalize. She tried to rationalize what she'd seen. A prank, elaborate makeup, some kind of performance art. But bullet holes don't look like makeup. Severed spines don't bend like costumes. And missing limbs don't hold fuel nozzles in empty space. The CB crackled. Westbound freightliner, you just left the Flying J at mile marker 71. You saw them, didn't you? Patricia grabbed the handset. Who is this? Someone who saw them too. 3 years ago, I stopped at that truck stop and everyone was dead. Injuries that should have been immediately fatal, but they kept moving, kept working, kept existing as if nothing was wrong. What's happening there? The truck stop is haunted, not by ghosts, by echoes. Every person who's died there over the years, accidents, murders, heart attacks, suicides, they're all still there, still acting out their routines, still serving customers and fueling trucks and buying coffee, because the location remembers them, holds them, won't let them leave. Patricia's stomach turned. How many? Hundreds, maybe thousands. That truck stop has been there since 1974, 50 years of deaths. Not many, maybe 2 or 3 a year, but they accumulate. And the place keeps them, preserves them. They exist in a state between life and death. Visible only to certain people at certain times. Why could I see them? I don't know. Not everyone can. Most people stop there and see nothing unusual. But some of us, maybe 1 in 100, we see the truth. We see the dead working the registers and mopping the floors and filling coffee cups. And once you've seen them, they know. They recognize you as someone who can perceive what they've become. Patricia's chest tightened. The man by my truck. He said, "You can see us." Like he was relieved. Like he wanted me to know. They do want you to know. They want someone to acknowledge that they're trapped, that they can't leave, that they died in that building or that parking lot and now they're prisoners of the location itself. The truck stop won't release them. It holds their echoes, uses them, makes them perform their duties forever. That's insane. Places don't have that kind of power, don't they? Think about locations where terrible things happened. Battlefields, disaster sites, places where death was so intense it soaked into the ground. That truck stop has absorbed 50 years of death. It's saturated with it. And now it keeps those deaths active, keeps them useful. Patricia drove in silence for several miles, processing, then asked, "Did anything happen to you after you saw them?" Long pause. Then, "Yes. 3 days later, I stopped at a different truck stop, 200 miles away, different state, different company, and I saw the cashier from the Toledo Flying J. Same bullet hole, same blood. He was working the register like he'd always been there, and I realized the dead from that location can spread, can appear at other truck stops, can follow the routes that truckers drive. Like they're hitchhiking through the network of rest stops and travel plazas." Patricia's blood went cold. "Are you saying they followed you?" "I'm saying they followed everyone who saw them. Every trucker who stopped at that Flying J and perceived the dead. We became marked, visible to them, and now, no matter where we stop, we see them. The dead cashiers, the dead lot attendants, the dead travelers. They're everywhere, every truck stop, every rest area. All the deaths from all the locations, visible only to us. We can't stop anywhere without seeing them." Patricia's voice rose. "That's not possible. I'm not spending the rest of my career seeing dead people at every stop." "Then don't stop. That's what I do now. I fuel at pumps where I don't have to go inside. I sleep in my cab. I avoid all buildings, because every building connected to trucking has deaths. And once you can see them, you always see them. The network of the dead is everywhere, and we're part of it now." The CB went silent. Patricia tried to call back. No response. Just static and the occasional normal chatter from other truckers who couldn't see what she could see. Patricia drove until her fuel gauge showed a quarter tank. She'd have to stop. Had to. But the thought of entering another truck stop, of seeing more dead people acting out their routines, made her want to drive into the median and end it. She pulled into a Love's at mile marker 134. Parked at the fuel island. Used her card at the pump so she wouldn't have to go inside. Didn't look at the building. Didn't look at other travelers. Just focused on the fuel nozzle and the numbers ticking on the pump display. The nozzle clicked off. Tank full. Patricia replaced it and turned toward her truck. The cashier from the Toledo Flying J stood 3 feet away. Same bullet hole. Same blood. Same sad smile. And he wasn't alone. Behind him stood the woman with the cut throat, the trucker with the tire iron, the family with gray faces, all of them. All of the dead from that location. Standing in the parking lot of a completely different truck stop. Watching her. Patricia's legs went weak. "This isn't real. You're not real." The cashier spoke. His voice was distant, echoing, like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "We're as real as you let us be. You saw us, acknowledged us, and now we can manifest wherever you stop, because you're a bridge, a person who exists in both worlds, the living and the dead. We need people like you." "For what?" "To remember us, to know we're here, to spread the knowledge. Every trucker you tell, every person you warn about the dead at truck stops, they'll start seeing us too. And the network will grow. More living people who can perceive the dead, more bridges. Until eventually everyone sees, everyone knows, And the boundary between life and death at these locations becomes so thin it doesn't exist anymore. Patricia backed toward her truck. I won't tell anyone. I won't spread this. You already have. The trucker on the CB. The one who warned you. He told you, and that telling created a connection. And now every trucker who heard that conversation, everyone who was listening to that channel, they're marked too. The knowledge spread.